Hi everybody, it's me, the Fetch, host of Inside the Eye Live. Before the Sunday mainstream media political pundit talk shows, there is Inside the Eye Live, where we break down some of the weekly mainstream media talking points before the talking points even get aired. Add in some entertaining stories, weather, cats, intriguing and informative guests, and you get one of the most listened to Saturday morning streaming media political talk shows going today. And it's all right here on our flagship station, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. So join me, the Fetch, for Inside the Eye Live every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern. It is truly intelligent media for the politically aware.
Welcome to Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love and universal consciousness, with your host, Janet Kira Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Together, we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I'm your host, Janet Kira Lessin, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Lessin, and we have a very special episode. Today we're going to do an Anunnaki Roundtable, and we have Anunnaki researchers, Michael Lee Hill, Emily Elizabeth Windsor-Cragg, and Robert Evans Jr. And before we start our discussion, Dr. Lessin, would you like to say something to our listeners?
Yes, in case, just as a refresher, the Anunnaki are the Nibirans, the great big tall Homo sapien human beings like us who adapted their genome to Earth, and they created a helper species, and they have decided to make us do better than they did, because they were murderous and warlike, and they put women down, and they created us to do better. And the king of Nibiru ordered his children to foster us. And when Ningishita, the genius who made the astronomical observation structures all over the world, left in 311 BCE. He said he would be returning 21st of December 2012 to clean up the mess that Nanar, known as Allah these days, has made on this earth. And that's how I want to kick it off.
Excellent. And in the round table, what we like to do is go, the first round, I think we should go, what do you think, 8 to 10 minutes, so that Michael has an update. Anyway, you can always yield. When we give you your turn, you can say, I'm complete, and yield to the next person. But we want to begin with Michael Lee Hill, and then the second round will go 5 minutes, and you'll hear a sound of a harp when your time is up. So, Michael, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. It's been a while since we've had you on, and we'd love you to give us an update on what's going on. Would you like to begin, please?
Sure. And again, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. Actually, so much has been going on. One of the biggest things was I was asked by Chief Golden Light Eagle of the Ancient Aliens show to speak at the Star Knowledge Conference. And that was in October. And it just ended up being profound. I met many of the chiefs from a lot of the different tribes, like actually all the chiefs and elders and the grandmothers were there, which is really interesting because we can get into this. It is the revealing of who the mound builders were, and got some inside info from them themselves. They are the Nephilim, which we can get into, and it's really interesting because the more I talked with the elders, it's really fascinating too, because in the Indian culture, it is the females who run everything. You know, everything goes up to the chief, but the chief, to get anything done, they got to take the matter to the grandmothers. So all 7 grandmothers were there as well, and it was pretty profound. But
I love it.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I'll tell you what, they do embark the grandmother spirit. It was so nice speaking with them, and they had so much wisdom and love to share. But before we get into that, I would like to talk about some current revelations that have been coming my way that is tied in with everything that we're talking about. And just so people have some idea that don't know me or have heard me on the show before, I started filming UFOs over Lake Erie, and some of my video clips went viral, and that brought the History Channel to my door. And they ended up doing a show called UFO Hunters, and the episode was Alien Contact. And in that episode, they flew me to Boston and had my blood work done by a Harvard professor named David Systrom. And that's when it was revealed, even though I didn't know what it meant at the time, that I don't have normal human blood. And truly what they were revealing, which I can reveal now, is it is the Nephilim bloodline. And what had happened after this is, at this point in my life, I didn't know what an Anunnaki even was. And they told me my connection to Inky, which they put it that I was chosen by Inky to be his messenger or counterpart, human counterpart, however you want to look at that. And I thought, well, that's strange. And I asked them for confirmation back then. And I said, you know what, why don't you put the name Inky into a crop circle? And then my second thought was, that'd be silly, big cursive Inky in a crop circle. Who's going to believe that anyhow, right? But the thought stood, and again I thought, and encode it was something that only I would be able to decode. And sure enough, that's happened. In 2011 in Italy, a crop circle showed up that was encoded in binary code, and it said Ia space Inky around the outside edges of the 7-pointed star. And what was interesting, the 7-pointed star, I'm finding out, is very significant in all this. And lo and behold, it was from one of the Indian chiefs that was set up next to me at the Star Knowledge Conference. Because what had happened was I was becoming a student of the subject of cymatics, which is making sound visible. And they pump water through a certain medium like water or sand. But water, you could see what geometry forms. And what they found was 432 hertz seems to be the magic frequency that creates the most harmonious frequencies. But it's as much, let me back up. For any frequency to get to its octave, you just double it. So what I was looking at is I started making these crystal discs, and one of the discs was actually a 27 hertz cymatic image. And what happens with frequency in music is to get to the octave, you double it. So 27 and 27 is 54. 54 and 54 is 108. 108 and 108 is 216. 216 and 216 is 432, and so on and so forth. One interesting thing that you got to take note is every one of those numbers, when you add it up, they equal 9, whether it's 27 or 216 or 432. So what I was finding is the 27 hertz is actually 4 octaves below the 432. It is totally dependent on you being tuned to A equaling 432, 4 octaves above. But I was sitting there looking at this image of this 7-pointed star, the cymatic image, and I was wondering, where have I seen this before? And I couldn't quite place it. And here all of a sudden I looked at my other set of discs I just created, and I had created one of these crystal discs out of the Inky crop circle. And I went, oh my God, it's the exact same image. It's a 27 hertz 432 derivative. And the reason I'm telling you all this is, first of all, that brought tears to my eyes. I realized the significance of what we're talking about, and that it was 432 based. But here's where this gets really cool is Nikola Tesla said if you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, and 9, then you would have a key to the universe. And, we've been left with this counting system by the Anunnaki. Actually, it's encoded into the geometry of the pyramids and whatnot. And one of the things that they've communicated is that dividing a whole by 12 is an important division of dividing something, and you got 12 months, 12 hours in a clock. 12 o'clock is midday or midnight, 12 days of Christmas, 12 inches to a foot, so on and so forth. The list just goes on. So here's the really crazy thing is what happens if you divide 432 by 12? Anyone can do this with their calculator. What you get is a perfect 36. If you divide 440, which our musical standard has been put into, by 12, you get 36.6666666666, and so on. So here's what's really interesting about this is our music tuned to 440 hertz is the closest something can come to producing sacred geometry without being, it's like an imposter, you know what I mean? But here, when you divide 432 by 12, you get 36. Well, just how we said, if you add all the numbers in 432, you get 9. 216, you get 9. Well, what do you get when 36 is 9, So what Tesla, I think, was talking about is the flip side of 432 hertz. It is an actual new way of 432 hertz and 369 are the same things, just said differently, which is pretty profound, I do believe. So what they're telling me is in the future, this is like E equals MC squared. The actual scientific knowledge of 369 is 432. See what I'm saying?
Yes, uh-huh.
So,
wow.
So all those pieces came together with the Inky in the crop circle and it being encoded with something pretty much only I would be able to decode. So I'm really excited about that information and being able to share it with the world.
Well, thank you. Okay, are you ready to yield to the next person?
Absolutely. That seems like a good segue.
Okay, good. Okay. Emily, Elizabeth,
yes.
Windsor-Cragg, how are you today? What would you like to report?
Well, thank you so much for having me on today on short notice. And what Michael Lee Hill is talking about is actually right up my alley, too, because the way I got into the Anunnaki was through numbers. Back when I was in graduate school, I got into analysis of computer software, and I was devising a new form of search engine based on prime numbers used as an alphabet to create a file system based on prime numbers in an analog environment. And in fact, I had a provisional patent on it as of 1993. Okay, I had the provisional patent on that. And as I was working on that prime number theory, I began playing with a pendulum because I was dealing with a lot of bad feelings and sickness and stuff like that. And I'm just trying to straighten out my chakras and figure out what's going on inside of me. We got to go inside when things aren't really optimum. And so I began listening from the inside for more information. And that's what took me into the Velikovsky books. It took me into all kinds of new teachings. That's when my mind expanded into space and time. And so that's what got me into the subject of our real anthropology, because I knew, having worked at the Kroeber Library at UC Berkeley back in the 60s, that they were teaching the very same 6,000-year limit on human history as Christian fundamentalists teach. And that just seemed kind of odd to me, That was just kind of weird. We already know that the world is full of pyramids in a grid system all over in China and Kosovo and Alaska and Egypt, and we are in the jungles of South America. So why were our anthropologists and archaeologists only speaking in terms of 2,000 years before Christ, 3,000 years before Christ? And why were the churches teaching this 6,000-year limit? That didn't make sense to me at all. So I began reading the alternative histories of the Bible, the Cobran, the Urantia book, the Oahspe, the book of Enoch, and I began to realize that the same story was being told over and over and over again about a much, much longer history line than we had ever known. So that kept me going on the line where I found the Anunnaki. And in finding them, I discovered that Enki had a way of thinking and a method, and that Enlil, his brother, had another way and a method, but I didn't get personal like you guys do. I just look at their methods. I'm an analyst, and their personalities just, well, whatever they were is fine. And so what I'm doing now is taking the Enki method and the Enlil method, and I'm bringing them down through history to show that the conflict between the two brothers is still alive and going on between hierarchy, which have secrets and a top-down way of submission to authority versus the Mosaic, the common law, the laws that the people themselves consent to on an equal basis and who choose their leaders from the bottom up. In the ancient law, a group of 10 men would choose their own leader, and then those 10 leaders would get together and choose the leader of those 10 men, and they chose their leaders going up, not coming down. So it's a different process, that of consensus. And so that is what I've been documenting. In my books, Come Let Us Make Man in Our Image, I show the two lines of thought and how they have come down through about the past 200,000 years. But lately, I just finished a book that shows the Anunnaki's effect on Luciferianism and on particularly the monarchies of Northern Europe, and particularly the time frame right around the beginning of World War I, when the Round Table had organized itself on the monies of Cecil Rhodes, who had died young, leaving a lot of money, and their object was to create a worldwide system of government, and that began affecting the politics of Northern Europe early in the 20th century. So that's what I'm working on now. So that's where I am.
Okay, thank you.
It's fantastic.
Are you finished? I can pass it on to Robert Evans Jr. Okay. Robert. Aloha.
Yes.
How are you? Good
Aloha.
to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for inviting me here again tonight. I'd like to say to Michael D. Hill, it's been a long time since we've heard you, and I'm glad you finally got a reading on your blood. You've been talking about that before. That seems just fantastic that you have possibility or are a Anunnaki type healer or helper. So that's really fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Now, the thing I've been getting into, I've just been doing a lot of research, a lot of stuff. People have been sending me all kinds of stuff on Facebook. The main thing I think we have to worry about now is whether or not we're starting to see the blue Kachinas in the sky right now.
Hello? Hello? Are we still on?
Today, yes. It's clearly showing something that looks a lot like a very blue-looking star. As most of you know, the Hopi, with their prophecies, make it very clear that the blue star Kachina will come here first. And supposedly the two brothers will dance in the town square. Now, my thinking on this is that the two brothers are Enki and Enlil. Sorry, it's my opinion only. If this is, I'm mostly just waiting to see what I hear from the Hopi about this. That also means that the red star Kachina is not far behind. And we already know what I think the red Kachina is.
Hello?
Yes, Janet, we're still here. Are you hearing everything all right?
Robert keeps dropping
Robert has
out.
dropped off. Okay. Well, Robert,
So,
are you back, Robert? Okay, we're gonna go on to Sasha while we try to get Robert back. And take it away, Sasha.
Oh, just lately I've been noticing how all over the world there are pyramids. And the pyramids are just like the kind of power stations that we have every few blocks in America. And the presence is often hidden by dirt and trees. The Chinese deliberately planted trees on top of their pyramids. The pyramids have the exact same dimensions as far as alignments on the ground, north and south, alignments with the Swan and the Belt of Orion, and they are observatories based on predicting the return of Nibiru and its accompanying, and Nemesis and the accompanying astronomical events. And the way these things worked would give them free electricity, and if we could regain the use of this system, we no longer would be dependent on polluting fuels, oil, and coal and things like that, but instead what we have is a stagnant water that's underneath a pyramid. When pumped, it starts a wave going upward, and then above that, hydrated zinc is combined through little chambers with HCl, which makes a hydrogen explosion. All this is being channeled upward in a toroidal curve toward the top of the pyramid, and it's facilitated by still further crystals. And so what you have out is a beam of piezoelectric current that can be picked up in these granite, which is highly magnetic monoliths everywhere. And so we have this source which has been known for antiquity, and all Michael Tellinger has found them in South Africa, they're all over China, they're all over the Americas, they're all over everywhere. And the ancients knew that we could have this, and once we break the truth embargo, which the power elite, the planetary oligarchy, have imposed upon us, we can have free energy. And this will, of course, greatly threaten the power elite, and there's going to be some interesting times ahead.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to report that we've been to 2 conferences back to back in 2 consecutive weekends, and my head's about to explode with all the information. But what I'm noticing is there's a huge movement of experiencers. The experiences, these are contactees, not abductees, and the experiences seem to be shifting to a much more positive vein. I've encountered several people who identify with the Anunnaki. They think they may have been an incarnation or a previous incarnation or concurrently incarnated. We're looking at the system of incarnations. Are we multidimensional beings? Can we simultaneously exist on more than one in more than one dimension, or in more than one planet, in more than one body at a time? So these things are being explored at these conferences. We're talking about consciousness. Both of these conferences, they seem to be shifting from the nuts and bolts and UFOs in the sky to, the evolution of consciousness and how we can awake and become aware of who we are as eternal beings in the cosmos. So this second round, I still want to kind of go free flow so I can allow you all to express what's on your minds. We're going to make it more like 5 minutes because nobody took the whole 10. And we'll go back to Michael. I don't know if we have Robert back on yet, but we'll just go round robin again. So, Michael, back to you. What would
right
you
on.
like to tell us?
Well, actually, what has been brought up here by almost everybody is this hidden history. And actually what I'm finding out is it deals more with ancient America than anything, and who the mound builders were. And the reason this is even important to me is, the History Channel happened, found out about the blood anomaly, and then it wasn't about 5 months after that is when I was met by the Anunnaki face to face, not channeling. I had a conversation with them, and as I told you before, it was interesting because this individual didn't have a face, faceless. And one of the Indian chiefs came up to me after my talk at the Star Knowledge Conference, and he said, I've met the faceless ones as well. I just want you to know. I was like, wow, that's the first person I've ever met that had the same experience as I had. But what I found out was, because of the blood anomaly, the Harvard professor and the History Channel had me contact my biological mother for the first time in my life. I was adopted. That's when I found out that I am Seneca Indian of the Iroquois Indian tribe. And the reason this is even important in any of this is it's come out that Edgar Cayce, who is considered one of the world's best psychics, which I wasn't even really into Edgar Cayce. Now I've been learning a lot. But he said that the mound builders were truly the remnants of the Atlanteans. He said there was actually 3 catastrophes that happened. First was 50,700 years ago, and it said it was caused by an explosion of a gas pocket within the Earth that triggered volcanoes and earthquakes and generated a magnetic pole shift, which produced a giant ice age. The second catastrophe happened 28,000 BC, and that coincided with a biblical account of the Great Flood. And the final catastrophe took place 10,600 years ago. And what happened, he said, is these Atlanteans were forced to relocate, and at the last catastrophe, they went up into the bottom of what became the North American continent. They first met the Mayans. This is all Edgar Cayce saying this, but you'll see why it's significant in all this. He said that they taught the Mayans the Mayan calendar, pyramid building, and whatnot. But then when the Mayans started with the self-sacrifice or human sacrifice, they figured, well, it's time to move on north. Well, here's where this gets really freaking crazy, is I had remembered, first of all, getting back to the NSA people, the A.R. Borden, he had told me, we know that you're living right on top of a vortex where you live at there in East Lake, Ohio. And they said, we don't even know how you can live there. And I thought, well, that's strange, because I knew enough at this time that they put structures where these vortexes were, and there was no big mound structure here that I knew of, and no pyramids. But I had remembered, since I grew up in this area, that there used to be a mound up on the hill from where I live. So I went and did some research, actually stopped where, they have a little monument now in the front of this grass, because long ago they, tore down the monument, and there's a school that sits there now. Here I find out it was the largest mound builder establishment in the world. They had 665-foot long mound walls that were 25 foot high, encircling a pyramidal flat top structure that was in the middle of this thing. And so because I put some of my research on Facebook, I got contacted by the East Lake Historical Society, and they said, we have some artifacts here at City Hall if you want to come in and look at them. So I said, absolutely. So I went in and I photographed some of these artifacts. And right when I noticed is on the wall, they had a couple newspaper articles. One of them was the mound builders were first in East Lake, Ohio. What you need to realize is A.R. Borden had told me, what's underneath you in that area. And I said, no, not really. He said, it's one of the oldest underground bases in the world, and it's not ours. And he said it connects to the Serpent Mound and all that, and connects back to the Anunnaki. So what I'm finding out is my hometown, where I've been filming all these UFOs and whatnot, the newspaper article said East Lake, Ohio is the first home of the mound builders. I thought, wow. It's kind of, if they were trying to hide this history from us, they almost had to destroy it, because it makes no sense with our history that there was a giant pyramidal complex here in East Lake, Ohio, But what Edgar Cayce went on to say is, he said that so now we know that they...
Oops. hold that thought. Next round we'll go with Edgar Cayce when he revealed, okay?
Right on.
Okay. Next, Emily.
Hello.
Your turn. Hello.
Okay.
What would you like to say?
Well, I'd like to talk about Michael Tellinger's discoveries in South Africa, because his ringtone circles in South Africa must have been connected to a pyramid there, because exactly what happens inside of those circles is that the temperature of the ground is 20 degrees higher than it is outside the circle. I thought that was just a marvelous discovery, and I've been wondering about the stone circles in Britain, if perhaps Britain also has its own pyramid that was providing power to the stone circles in Britain. That would make a certain amount of sense. So that's just something I'm kind of curious about. But what I've found in terms of history of the matriarchal societies, and on my mother's side, her great-grandmother was a full-blood Cherokee Indian, and I believe that it's the hybridization of the Hebrew line, the 12 tribes, with the matriarchal lines here in North America or around the world. That hybrid apparently is in great demand by national security, because people like that are very, very, very psychic. And, of course, being very, very psychic makes you vulnerable to a lot of problems as well as gifts. Because if you're highly sensitized and highly aware of everything that's going on around you, without some clear guidance, you can really get crazy. And a lot of very, very clairaudient, clairvoyant people do have great difficulty adapting to modern life in the Matrix, when the Matrix game doesn't have any relationship to or match up with what they know and insinuate and intuit instinctively on the base of their own awareness. So it's been a real struggle for the bloodlines of the Anunnaki down through time, and they were the bloodline of Abraham, was the Enlil line that split into 12 tribes, and then when Jerusalem was destroyed, they moved into Northern Europe in the Moravian lines, and they moved into Ireland with King Zephaniah's 2 daughters and the prophet Jeremiah and the Stone of Scone. And that's how the covenant comes about for the kingdom of David, how that happens to just show up in Ireland in 583 BC, almost 600 years before Christianity started. And then the Celtic people apparently took up that covenant. And that's the history that has really been suppressed among Western people, because the ones in control, the elites, are the 1% of the 1%. And the rest of the 12 tribes, who are somewhat telepathic and clairaudient and clairvoyant, can make up about 15 to 20% of the population, according to Rand Corporation's study. So there are a lot more intuitives on the planet than just the elite. The elite is the elite of the elite, okay? And another 15 to 20% of the people are just as smart as the elite, except that they're stuck and they're caught in working classes and middle classes. and they're being dumbed down, we know now. So one of our challenges is to discover what has been hidden from us, what has been kept from us and suppressed since the elite began their program. Horace Mann initiated dumbing down in English-speaking countries back in the 1880s. And then the idea of a worldwide empire, which Queen Victoria was pursued in turn by her grandson, George, Duke of York, who became George V, and who, whoops, I'm out of time. Next guy.
Next time, okay.
Robert.
Next we have Robert.
Yes.
Are you back with us? Okay, your turn.
Okay. I was listening to Michael there. Some of the prophecies from Edgar Cayce have been starting to pop up recently again on Facebook. They're pretty good. They're interesting, I swear. You know, the way that guy could tell some of these things in his dreams. One of the I don't have all of them in my head right now, and I don't have them on my screen, so I can't really talk one or the other. But I know he did say that the lakes, the Great Lakes, would all be dumping down the Mississippi, and that was also one of the things that a couple of Native American prophets also said the same thing. A lot of the Navy and the military world maps for the United States showed the exact same stuff. That's if everything happens the way it's been foretold, okay? So I don't really think that might happen. Hopefully it's been intervened on, but it's getting in there pretty good. What do you think, Michael?
I kind of got a little inside info on that because of my contacts with the NSA, the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works division led by A.R. Borden. This gets into a whole other thing, and we can wait on this, but I'm absolutely convinced because of my own work with them, and it wasn't just us. There's a lot of people working behind the scenes with the incoming to take humanity into a more positive, beneficial timeline, and we were successful, and I think that's what brought A.R. Borden's death, actually. But that's a whole other story. I think we're in a new timeline, and it pissed off the elite because they truly, if you look at the Georgia Guidestones, they put it in stone that they wanted a mass population reduction. And we threw a monkey wrench into that, so to speak, because we didn't really do it. It was definitely the Anunnaki on the incoming,
Sure.
So, I think we are on a new timeline.
Those Georgia Guidestones were recently updated.
Yes.
Where someone put cut out a part up on top of one of them, and they put 2014 in there.
Yes, indeed.
And that just it drove everyone nuts. And then out comes this truck with these two guys. Guy climbs up a ladder, knocks it down, and he's doing it while he's on his left knee, which seems to be almost the same type as what a Freemason would do during their stuff. And he cut the block into several chips, and the block actually had something on every single flat spot around it.
Yeah.
I mean,
pretty mind blowing, ain't it?
It is. It makes you wonder. Yes. I told my friend Ivy West about that, and she says someone's upping the time of what's going on. Maybe we are, as you say, in a different time frame now with all this stuff. Who knows?
Well, I can tell you that the reality of the Nephilim and who the mound builders is about to be revealed to the planet. And that's going to be a huge shift. It is the revealing of one of the lost tribes of Israel, if not most of them, and where they went to. And we can get into that here in a little bit, because as I found out, this is the home of the mound builders right here, East Lake, Ohio. So,
yes.
And I found out what's really mind-blowing, I'll tell you some of the street names, but it's recorded into the actual street names here in East Lake where they went.
Oh, jeez.
Isn't that crazy?
Hey, well, we're getting really close to some type of, first contact, revealing, like you're thinking right there. It's going to be very interesting real soon. As I was I know it was cut off accidentally sometime there. My friends are really looking at that blue star that seems to be showing up over Germany. And they're all starting to drop into maybe that's the blue Kachina, which brings in the Hopi prophecies.
Okay, it's Sasha's turn.
I'd just like to talk a little bit about history. I've been talking with a grandfather, Clifford Mahudi, a Zuni elder who's really helped me understand a lot of things, but I'll tie this into the history that I've been studying with Zechariah Sitchin. Sometime after the deluge, there developed a huge rivalry between Enki's son, Marduk, and Enlil's granddaughter, Inanna. Basically, Inanna was starting to get together with Dumuzi, who is was the youngest son of Enki, and both clans, the Enki clan and the Enlil clan, thought this would be perhaps the end of their warring. But Marduk, who was the eldest son of Enki and who had been promised that he would be king of Nibiru once Alalu died, had been denied that because Anu overthrew Alalu and had him exiled till he died on Mars. And so Marduk felt that he should be ruler of at least of Earth and then ultimately of Nibiru, and he arranged for their sister Geshtiniana to have sex with Dumuzi and then yell rape. And Marduk's lieutenants chased Dumuzi, and in an escape, he fell off of a cliff and fell into Lake Victoria and in Africa and drowned. And so that Inanna then went to, she ordinarily would have gone to Marduk as the elder brother of her deceased fiancé or husband, Dumuzi, but that was hardly appropriate since she regarded him as the murderer. So she went to the next son of Enki, Nergal, who is the overlord of the South Africa, the mines, and Ereshkigal, her sister, killed her, and Enki revived her, and so forth. But there came to be a series of wars between Marduk, known as Ra, who was ultimately in charge of the new spaceport in Sinai, and had control of the Great Pyramid at Giza, and he was defeated. Enki and his brothers did come to Marduk's help, but Enlil and Ninurta, Enlil's champion, did win, and Nimma was able to negotiate a peace treaty, and the deal was that Marduk ultimately was exiled to North America, and he was responsible for a lot of the development in North America. In the meantime, they put Ningishita, or Thoth, as he was known in Egypt, in charge of Egypt because he actually was the daughter of Ereshkigal, so he was related to Enlil's side as well. And so Ningishita worked with the descendants of Cain, whom Adad had brought to make the new spaceport near Lake Titicaca, Tiwanaku. And so we have these South American Indians. Thoth established a great big pyramid at Teotihuacan in Mexico, and he brought over his African Olmec and bearded Sumerian helpers and so forth. And in the meantime, we have this, so that those are the ancestors of the Hopi and the Zuni, and these people established a huge trading route that would go all the way from North America They would, along this migration route, they would leave some of the people to share their customs, and others would stay to teach the people whatever they were, and they would go all the way down to Tehuacan. When the Navajo came, they came over, and they were descendants, Grandfather Mahudi says, of the Mongols, and that's why you get this conflict between the Navajo and the Pueblo people. And anyway, it's quite a convoluted history, and we are caught up in the rivalry between these factions. And nowadays, obviously, we have a huge problem with Nanar, who came back down from the moon to coach Muhammad in killing everybody and taking over the world. And it's very interesting because ultimately, right now, the power elite is fomenting a lot of trouble between us and the Russians. But we and the Russians are really ultimate allies if we just get it together and realize we've got to make peace on the world. Otherwise, we're all going to be in big trouble.
That was perfect timing. So at this conference, we've been talking about the global grid that came from the Anunnaki. There are pyramids, like Emily said, and they're all over the planet. We have the stones in South Africa with Tellinger, and they correlate, and they're in alignment with the Giza pyramids. But the pyramids are in some kind of grid across the planet. We've got the Alaska one. We've got Bosnia. There's a Sphinx. Romania. There's ruins, and so all these reports are coming out about this global grid, and I wonder how they tie in, Michael, with the mounds. What's the purpose of the mounds? Can you tell us a little bit more about that in your next turn here?
Right on. Well, first of all, we'll get into this. Sasha, I got to tell you, I'm just blown away because what I haven't revealed yet is I met Clifford at the Star Knowledge Conference, and I showed him photographs of some of the artifacts that were removed from this mound, and he said, please send these to me. He said, this is what I do. I translate these artifacts. So right now I'm waiting on word back from that. But how this all fits into who the mound builders were is, like, first of all, you'll find out that the oldest 10 Commandments ever found was found in Newark, Ohio, not Egypt, and it was taken out of a mound. And the exact same geometry that is encoded into the pyramid is encoded into the Newark earthworks. Getting back to Edgar Cayce, he said the mound builders eventually intermingled into the Iroquois tribe of Indians, which is actually 5 tribes. It's not one tribe. For the longest period, the 5 tribes were actually at war with one another, and it wasn't until this person called the Peacemaker in their mythology crossed over from the Canada side and brought peace to the 5 tribes, which is a really interesting story in itself. But what he said has actually come true with DNA testing now. People that are listening can go and just type in haplogroup X. Haplogroup is, you can tell the lineage of DNA, like back in time where it came from. And what they found out was they found a brand new DNA lineage in 1997, which isn't that long ago. And the only place that it really exists, first of all, is everywhere that Edgar Cayce said the Atlanteans. But what's really interesting is he called them, not only did he call them the Atlanteans, he called them the Poseidians, which would make them Inky bloodline. Right. Everywhere that he said that they went, you'll find this new DNA lineage called haplogroup X. And for the most part, what they found is that it only exists in the tall skeletal remains that have been removed from the earth mounds. And in 3% of the Iroquois tribe of Indians still to this day in ancient Israel. But right here, you got DNA scientific evidence backing up that these tall skeletons that were 8 to 16 feet tall, there's still people walking this planet of the Iroquois Indian tribe, which I am, which, it's all coming together. That, I guess my point is, at one point they were giants and now they're not. That's fascinating in itself because it means there's still genetic work being done to reduce the stature. There's no other explanation. Kind of would explain abduction phenomena as well. But what I found out is some of the Inky side is still that Nephilim bloodline is tied in with the Iroquois tribe of Indians. And what I was going to tell you is with the street names that are here in this area, let me find this for you. East Lake, Ohio, there's this, I found out it's one of the oldest roads in this area, and guess what the name of the road is? Lost Nation.
Oh.
You know, someone encoded this. So first of all, you get to the end of Lost Nation Road, and it dead ends right where Lake Erie is. And if you take a trip to the left, that's the site of the first mound establishment that I was telling you about. If you take a right, the first road that you come to is Iroquois. Then the next road is Seneca, Mohawk, Cherokee, which we're saying Cherokee is actually, they're the cousins of the Iroquois. Tioga is one of the other road names. I typed in Tioga, I found out it's the Iroquois Indian name for Peaceful Valley, among other names that's there. So obviously someone knew East Lake, Ohio is the home of the mound builders, one of the Lost Nations, and the first establishment, which became the Iroquois tribe of Indians. That's pretty mind-blowing. So all that's still underway right now with Clifford Mahooty, and he's going to be, like I said, translating these artifacts. So I'm really excited. But as you can see, in 2008, I didn't know who the Anunnaki was. I didn't know I had any Indian heritage at all. Most people said, dude, you're Italian. You know, I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. I had no way of finding out. So to find out that my great-grandfather was pure-blood Seneca and my biological father is tied in with the Montauk tribe, which the Montauk, or the Montaukette they were called, was a tribe in New York. And they've been kind of written out of the history books, but the NSA people told me that the Montauk Indians is truly the Marduk bloodline here on this planet. As far as, you know, which would make it the Inky bloodline, because he was Inky's son, right? You know, so pretty much it's going to come out to who the Iroquois tribe of Indians is. I think it's really a fascinating twist on things because of, it was really the first case of genocide and chemical warfare that the Europeans used against the Native American Indians. They gave them blankets that were riddled in smallpox because they knew they had no immunity. And, you know, just millions of Indians were, you know, killed here by smallpox.
Your time went off. I accidentally hit the button. So we were talking about the blanket, so we can come back to that. Emily.
Yes, okay. Now,
back to you.
My earliest memory goes back to Lyra, which is a long, long time ago, and the Lyran civilization was all matriarchal. And that's why I'm very comfortable with the fact that I've got Cherokee in the woodpile also, and I'm very comfortable with the Cherokee tradition, even though I'm predominantly from the British bloodlines. In the scripture, the book of Numbers gives the begats and the begats and the begats who was in the 12 tribes of Israel. And I have found a contemporary book written by Yar Davidi, The Tribes, recently, which is a historical record of where the 12 tribes went after they left Jerusalem from 600 BC until now. This is a marvelous reference book for anybody who has a bloodline in the British, in the Anglo line, and you want to look yourselves up. Now, my first memory in the Anunnaki culture is as Ereshkigal, the daughter of Nanar, and the sister of Ayana, and the sister of Utu, and Ningishita was my son. Now, this is saturating my memories, but I'm going to be a good scientist about this, and I'm going to meet some of these people who claim that they are Utu or Ayana. I think I know who Ayana is, and Ningishita, and verify and validate the memories that I believe I have. I'm not going to just make any assumptions about that. But since I was from Lyra, and Lyra was matriarchal, and it was egalitarian, believe me, I had a problem as a Reshkagil, the younger sister of Ayana, because Ayana used to just push me around all the time. She dominated me totally. She drove me nuts, okay? And I did not fit into the Anunnaki society very well. And so at some point I fled and went on other timelines and did other things. I've ended up now in a bloodline in which I have the same blood disorder as King George III, porphyria, and so do some of my kids. And my second son is the absolute spitting image of my deceased father, so I know I'm in the right bloodline finally. Michael, like you, I was a foster kid and then adopted, and I was in my 40s before I even began to figure out who I am. And that process goes on today to figure it out. But while I'm figuring that out, am I out of time already?
Oh, sorry, we're at the top of the hour. Emily, hold that thought. We'll be back in 5 minutes. And you listeners.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Hey folks, Captain Nighthawk here. Do you have a favorite host? Well, imagine if you will having all the broadcast shows from 2013 to listen to anytime you want. Awesome deal, huh? Anyway, so stop by freedomslips.com and order the entire 2013 library of your favorite host for just $30. Not only do you help with the station funding to keep us on the air, you also help the host because they get half of the net on every order. Also, we have Revolution Radio's all-time favorite shows all on one disc. The details are really broad, so you'll have to visit the website and go look at the details yourself. It's, again, www.freedomslips.com/season2013.htm. And get your favorites. First come, first serve, 7 to 21 days for delivery. Thank you. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps, including me, David.
We've got to stop them! They're going to kill us all!
Tune in Tuesdays at 12 noon Eastern on Studio A to hear Tammy Adams share her knowledge of an unknown realm on Talking with Your Angels. Join Tammy as she uncovers hidden secrets about the spiritual world of angels, ghosts, and other entities that have been with us longer than we know. Tammy is a psychic, a teacher, spiritual coach, a leader in her field, and will be sharing her information and stories with you. So join us on Tuesdays at noon on Studio A. With Tammy's guidance, you'll find out who has been watching over you from the other side, and soon you will be talking with your angels.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome back to Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I'm your host, Janet Lessin, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Lessin. And before we go back to our incredible show, I'd like to remind you all to go over to that donation button on our website and please donate. Revolution Radio is listener-supported, and we do need your donations, so donate what you can. 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever you can is greatly appreciated, and we do thank you very much for your donation. Before we went to commercial break, we left poor Emily in mid-sentence. So would you like to complete your thought, and then we will move on to Robert Evans, Jr.
Okay,
and you were talking about how you, too, are of a strange lineage and are seeking out who you are.
The daughter of Ereshkigal.
And also
she was Ereshkigal.
Ereshkigal.
Yeah, and Inanna is my younger daughter, and she's just as wild now as she ever was. She hasn't changed a bit, and so I'm waiting to meet Ningishita to see if I can connect with him. He is supposed to be my son, and I have this testimony that I was Ereshkigal and I didn't fit in because I came from a matriarchal society, and I was so offended at the patriarchy that I actually fled the Anunnaki before I was there very long, within, a few lifetimes. And I've, gone through all this martyrdom and stuff, which is just enough. I don't even want to think about it. And so I'm head tripping here, and I'm staying in the methods that Enki had. And since I come in on the Enlil line, and I come in on the line of rational law and consent, even though he didn't live by it, I know he didn't live by it, but he presented it, and it is with us to this day. And the conflict between top-down hierarchy versus grassroots consensus is carried on, and I think the solution to that conflict lies within the process itself. We're going to depersonalize this political system and make it more rational and reasonable, and that's my goal and where my sights are set. And the reason they're set that way is because of my current bloodline, which is the daughter of the last lawful king of England. Okay, I've inherited some of his interests and some of his gifts in articulating and analyzing things, and so that's what I do.
Okay, thank you. Next is perfect timing. Okay, next is Robert Evans. Are you there? Your turn.
I'm here. I'm trying to listen in most of the stuff here. I'll probably just keep listening for a little bit and pass off to Michael.
Okay, it's Sasha's turn. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sash.
Okay, we are about to confront an unstoppable disclosure as Nibiru comes to its full perigee, nearing to Earth, and it's going to be absolutely clear that there is free energy, and the whole world is in touch with the ability to get free energy, particularly from 3D printing, where we can create our own ways of hooking into the grid. And this is the time. Once this great power is known, we no longer need polluting fuel, and there's going to be, and when you have great power, it can be used either to oppress or to free us. And fortunately, in 311 BCE, when Thoth, known here as Kukulkan, left the Maya, he said, he said, I am going to return on December 21st, 2012, and I'm going to bring with me 9 other gods and 12 other gods. That's the way he spoke. And when he left, the priesthood that he left in charge started using the sacrifice more and more for political control. And we have the coming down of the Hopi and Zuni people basically that pushed the Maya further and further and further south. And they had their last battle in near Chimu. And so this battle has gone on and on and on. And the reason that Ningishita is so special, and it's interesting Emily is so connected with Ningishita, is he was the person that could connect with both sides. In anthropology, he's what we call a matrophiliate. Even though he was a son of Enki, that's the father's line, he is also the son of Ereshkigal. And he is the person who can bring the sides together and stop those people from warring against each other. Well, we have in us, because this is a holographic universe, we have within us both those aspects, the greedy, hierarchical, warlike part, and the people-loving part as well. And it's critical, I believe, to embrace those within each of us and to be able to walk the Tao between them. And as to the degree that each of us can do it, we create a morphogenic that can give us the kind of balance that we need. And it's no longer Kryonoskotsky, life lived out of balance.
And I just think it's fascinating that you, Emily, and Michael have discovered that you have bloodlines that are Nephilim or Anunnaki or whatever you want to call them. I, too, have rhesus negative, O negative blood, which is what we've been identifying as the Anunnaki bloodline. Now, we're all descended from the Anunnaki, but this is a special segment of the blood. And it doesn't make us better than anybody else. It's just an identifying marker. So back to you, Michael. Your turn.
Wow. There's just so many synchronicities that are happening here. First of all, I absolutely agree that what I was told was the acorn is no less significant in the Creator's eyes than the giant oak it will one day become. You know, it's just different phases of awareness for a consciousness that's awakening. But I want to share something with you guys because this gets into what you just said, Sasha, about 2 different sides. Check this out. This is from the NSA people. It says, I'm totally happy for your connection with your dad. It is a long time coming for you and to make that reconnection. But you know your dad is tied to the Marduk side, which is interesting. Yes, your dad is indeed of the bloodline and a high-ranking member in the family. So I see what is coming as far as the politics. There is a battle in the family, as you know, on 2 sides. One thing is for sure, folks are watching you, Mike, and what position you will take and on what side in the future. It says you're getting closer, Michael. As I told you, the key is the Montauk's. Although I will not give you the answers, grasshoppers, smiles, this is a part of your process of remembering. I will point you like a finger pointing to the moon towards a new interview I did 2 to 3 years ago with some people that will fill in the blanks, which I've got those interviews now. It was the head of the Mound Builders Association. Says, Michael, so you have connection to the Montauk through your paternal father, and he is woven into much at the Montauk and the people and who the Montauks truly are, family trees. I thought you should know this. We can continue this dialogue offline. So what they're saying is I have a pretty strange bloodline because on my father's side, it's Marduks, and on my mother's side, it's Seneca. And from what I understand, they were two different sides of the coin, you know what I'm saying? So for a long time, it's kind of rare to have someone that was born of both bloodlines because they were at war with one another. So it didn't lead to romantic, endeavors. So, but to be honest with you, I don't see why that they're thinking they need to see which side I'm going to choose, because I would never side with who became the minions of Marduk. I understand what Marduk's doing here and reflecting back a negative polarity. That doesn't give me any reason to want to spend time with people who have chosen to misuse their power over others. And that's what his role is. All the secret societies that cater to Marduk, they don't realize they're catering to a multidimensional being whose spiritual purpose it is to reflect back a negative polarity. So there's not much choice in my mind that I don't want nothing to do with them. I'm totally happy just to be playing music. And a matter of fact, when the Anunnaki asked me, well, what do you want to do with your time? That you got a lot of time left here. And I understood the weight of the question and where it was coming from, but it didn't take me long to answer. I said, well, I want to play music, because that's truly the only thing that's really brought me peace and joy in this world, and it still does. And they said, that's perfect. They said, we're not looking for an evangelist or a politician. You being a musician is perfect, and let your freak flag fly was their own words. So I just wanted to share that. I don't think I've ever shared that on the radio before as far as the Indian bloodlines and whatnot. So, and I want to share this with you too, because you can get this confirmed through Clifford, Sasha. That when I was at the Star Knowledge Conference, I didn't even know what I was being invited to, but on the dawn of the fall equinox, about 140 of us, all the different chiefs of all the tribes, the Mayans were there, the Aztecs, the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Sioux. It was interesting because as one of the grandmothers gave her message from Spirit on top of what happened was we all went to this mound in Nashville called Mound Bottom, and they did a ceremony to lock in the Christ grid, to bring in this new reality. And I just thought we're taking a visit to the mound, Here I ended up being part of the ceremony. I feel very fortunate that I was there, but Clifford was there as well. And it was interesting because during the grandmother's message on top of this mound, she said Spirit is informing her that they had Iroquois blood there for the first time. I'm thinking, yay, that's me, So I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that a lot of these elders and ancient...
Okay, go ahead and finish your thought. Go ahead.
That I was there for it, and they did do a ceremony that was to lock in a new reality, and Spirit had said through the grandmother that they didn't think that we would make it. They said the bus was late, but we arrived on time.
Wow.
Was the exact message.
Thank you so much for that.
Michael, like you say, there are so many facets to the study of the discovery of who you are, because we were in the past and we are now, and there's a goal in our future that we're striving for. And we in order, when you're adopted, to find out where you belong, who you belong to, or who you fit in with, you have to follow all the threads. You can't just follow one thread or one ideology. Now, in my bloodline, my mother was a Stuart with some Cherokee, and my father was a Hanover. And there's a lot of competition and conflict between those bloodlines also. So I've come along, like Michael, as a hybrid, listening to everybody, because that was my circumstance as a young child. I was a foster kid in a home that had no other children, and so my task in that family, which was a Russian Zionist communist family, Eugene Dennis was my uncle and so forth, was to sit and listen to the elders who gave me their experience as their gifts to me. So I had to learn how to listen very, very early in life. and I've spent my life listening and analyzing. And Michael likes his music, and I like my analyzing. I have fun doing that. It's the game I play with everything around me to get a coherent picture. You know, like you like to have a nice, clean, orderly closet. Well, I would like to have a nice, clean, orderly mind. And so I analyze and make things make sense to me. When something makes sense, then I have a place to put it in my consciousness. And so there are so many aspects. I want to meet Ningishita. I want to read more and learn more about the Anunnaki experience, although I understand it was a very unpleasant experience for me. And I had another very unpleasant experience on Mars with a very difficult husband. And the analysis that I do of the methods has a political purpose, because here in Western society, we're still fighting the battle between Enlil and Enki, between top down and bottom up, okay? And what I have found in our recent history here in the West is that without the knowledge of the populace in around 1870s, right after the Civil War in the United States rewrote its constitution as a corporation and made all of its citizens into chattel collateral, literally. And the same thing happened in the UK. In fact, the monarchy today isn't even a monarchy. It is a corporation, okay? It is the United Kingdom Corporation, and technically, legally, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II is nothing but a CEO. So that, I was talking to Alfred Weber a couple days ago, and of course he advocates that the UK ought to become a republic. And I said to him, because Alfred is a Juris Doctor, he knows more about law than he knows everything about law. I said, well, that wouldn't harm the monarchy at all. The monarchy is a corporation like Disneyland, okay? And so if the UK became a republic, or if Scotland became a republic, that wouldn't affect the monarchy, because that's a corporation. That's the Disneyland East of the Western world. And he thought that was a funny idea. And that's what I'm working on, getting the fight between Enki and Enlil resolved in our time, so we don't have any more of these crazy Mardukians talking about killing off 90% of the population. As I understand it from the higher dimensions, destruction is never a blessing. Life itself is never the problem, okay? So my desire is to resolve the conflict. Make sense?
Yes.
Absolutely. Godspeed, and thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Okay, Robert.
Well,
are you there?
Yes, are you guys hearing me okay?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. It's going to be interesting when we finally do get first contact, when Nibiru shows up then. For all the problems we seem to have around the planet, all the problems that we have been, between the Enkis and the Enlils, between the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, the Illuminati, keeping all the bloodlines going. 'Cause I seriously think it is a bloodline. The Holy Grail's a bloodline. And I've actually been starting to get into discussions about that with another person. So it's going to be really interesting when they show up. Supposedly sometime next year. That's what everything I've been hearing. So.
Can I be honest with you, Robert?
Go ahead.
I don't think anything or anybody is going to show up. I think, like the ancient Jewish people, we are going to be waiting for our Savior till the cows come home, and we're going to have to figure this out ourselves. That's what I think.
Sure, no problem.
That was my 2 cents.
No problem.
Okay.
Always welcome to hear your 2 cents. No problem here.
I'm not for genocide or wars anymore. I've had it. So no more population reduction, no more slavery, no more exploitation, and no more pedophilia, for crying out loud.
Oh. Okay. Robert, do you have more to say?
No.
Go ahead.
No.
You'll pass. Okay, on to Sasha.
Okay, there's some of the things that you're pointing out, Emily, are quite useful. In anthropology, we talk about institutions of presumed perpetuity, things that are seen to go on throughout time, no matter who the incumbent is. So an office is what we call a corporation's soul, and the who is in that office changes, and that's a way of avoiding individual responsibility. And the same with corporate entities like nations. If you have what we call ad hoc commissions where people arise who are expert and best to do each task, or committees, and then they expire when that's over, you have a much better kind of thing going. And what I want to advocate is that everybody go to sacred sites or pray, or what happens, especially in music and trance dancing, and of course the American Indians have brought that to a high art. You can transcend your sense of separateness and feel your unity with everybody and everything. My bloodline is a regular old, and I'm a regular blood A, and I'm the son of Irving Lessin and Irma Kaplan, and we come from a Union family and a regular old Jewish family, and I ain't royal, but I'm a person, and I know my own power, and I know that I'm not bowing down to no false gods.
Right on.
Sasha's always so passionate. I just love him. Okay, I'm going to pass. This is a great conversation. I'm just going to yield my time back to Michael.
Well, I'd like to give my 2 cents on Nibiru, because this is something really that I know how crazy it sounds, but everyone here is familiar with the Philadelphia experiment, where they in the 40s they were using Tesla technology and put a huge magnetic field around a battleship, trying to bring invisibility, but what they did was rip it out of the space-time continuum. Are you familiar?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. But tell
our listeners a little bit.
Well, what they found was what they actually did, I'm sure all the listeners also know what a Merkaba is, which is the aura field, the energy field around any living thing. It could be a tree, a dog, a plant, or a human, or a planet. They create, and Merkaba means, I think it's physical light body, I believe is it. And once you get those energy fields spinning in a specific way, it ignites into a ball of plasma. Actually, you're sitting inside of a miniature sun at that point, and you can pretty much go anywhere in the universe multidimensionally that you want. Well, they did this artificially in the 40s and put an energy field, a magnetic field, using huge generators in this ship, and it ripped it out of the space-time continuum. The story goes it popped back in 1988, and then it slingshotted back eventually back into its normal timeline, but then the guys were infused into the ships and whatnot. What I can tell you, and I know what this sounds like, but the work I did with the NSA, secret group, of course, is that all scientific data that wasn't being revealed to the world had Nibiru coming in on a doomsday transit. It said that every time it comes through, every 3,600 years, it's not catastrophic, because it would show in our geographical records, and it's not. So what creates the difference between a survivable passage and not is if it comes through between Mars and Jupiter, we got a buffer. But if it comes through Mars and Earth, then we have nothing to buffer its effects, and it's catastrophic. Well, they had it on a doomsday transit, and they said the closest would have been December 2012, by the way. And also there was a huge expulsion of energy from the galactic center. They called it a galactic superwave. And that had been revealed in the mainstream news. They said in certain frequencies using these new telescopes that they found out that there was this picture in infinity, or a figure 8, that's got the Milky Way in between it, and it's expanding out through the universe. And it was said to come here at the same time period, which was December 2012. So what they wanted to do, picture this: if you ignite a single person's Merkaba field, it takes them out of the space-time continuum, and like they did with the ship, it might even just be a split millisecond in our time frame, but 30, 40 years could go by while it's in the ether, like it did, and pop back into 1988. They were going to try to do this with the help of the incoming and ignite the whole Earth's Merkaba field. They said most advanced planets do have this. They called it like Dyson shield. Right. Where, and it's done with mental energy, that's amplified to a great extent. And their own words for this was they wanted to get the hell out of Dodge and take Dodge with them. And honestly, they said that they didn't know this was being done. By the way, that's not what we asked for. We asked for the only thing that from our scientists on this side, we asked for a change in trajectory as it passed through the solar system to bring it through, on a non-doomsday transit. And the Anunnaki themselves said, well, since you asked, we're going to help you. And they said, actually, this has a lot to do with, do you remember Buzz Aldrin revealed that there is a monolith on one of the moons on Mars?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they said that those are actually on all the planets. On the from the seventh planet into the sun, all on where these nodes of magnetic electric energy cross on these planets, there's these monoliths or structures, pyramids or something is in those places, and they're actually made to help a transit, or anything. This is the first time it was used in this regard, but I can tell you that from their own viewpoint, they said that they didn't even know how time would restart, which is interesting.
Talking about stargates, right? Stargates?
Well, it could be looked at that way, if you rip...
Okay, finish your thought. Go ahead.
Pretty much if you rip any object out of its space-time continuum, it could be viewed as a stargate or a wormhole, or however you want to wrap your head around it. But that's what happened in 2012. In the fall of 2012, much work was done, and I was smack dab in the middle of it. And so what I'm telling you is, as far as I'm concerned, Nibiru has already come and gone. I know it sounds crazy.
And we've gotten through it safely, and that's the position that I hold. And the igniting of a Merkaba is essentially an ascension. It's the ascension of a soul, and you can mechanically or technologically ignite objects, which is what the Montauk project did. I know I listened to the whole series of videos by Preston Nichols about that project. It was fascinating, particularly in the 9th video. He had a workmate there who was a 9-foot tall lizard man, who he just had to work with. I think the guy's name was Karsh or something, and he lisped a lot, and his tail every once in a while whipped around, and he loved to drink solutions of Drano. I mean, it's a wonderful, happy story about a human having to share an office with a lizard man.
Yikes.
Yeah, well, no, but, they got along fine, because the lizard man was apparently a Draco who was just, just absolutely straight arrow. He was someone that could be, you could talk to him or whatever. He wasn't devious as a predatory mindset would be. And I found the entire concept of secret society and predatory mindset today as objectionable as I did when I was a Reshkagil. I hated it then. I hate it now. And it's the reason that I'm sifting and sorting through our legal systems to untie and untangle the fact we have over 2 million federal corporate statutes, whereas in the old Mosaic law, there are only 254 legal principles to follow. There's really no need, if you have basic legal principles, why you have to continue to legislate until you have 2 million laws. I mean, that's just nuts. So the legal problem is one that I work on with Al Weber, and in order to do that, I have to get coherent about and cognitively straight the difference between maritime law and common law. And so and I'm working on that. But, you know, I also have a hobby. When I worked for Xerox as a digital imaging technician and trainer, I used to fix copy machines, and I used to have to fix my customers' copies. And in that process, I learned digital imagery from the perspective of the whole spectrum of colors, not just the red, green, and blue, but also the cyan, magenta, and yellow, and how they affect the light spectrum. And they're like a mirror image of each other. They both form white when all three are present, but they do so in a mirror image with the energy being highest with the white light in the physical, and the energy being lowest in the white light in the subjective, the black light and the UV. And that's been a study of mine also. And so I have practiced the digital imaging analysis on all of the planetary and moon photos coming out of NASA, and I've been able to find faults that they have inserted in those photos in order to conceal data they didn't want to make public. They rotate, or they stretch the scaling, or they invert the contrast, or they turn the contrast all the way up to stark black and white, or they don't develop it at all, so it looks like you have a bed of sand or dirt. There's a whole bunch of tricks that NSA and NASA use to modify and fuzzify their images. And so what I've been able to find is that NASA doesn't tell their text never matches their images. So I gave up on believing them at all. And I've sort of had to come up with my own explanation of a lot of the phenomena that I've run into. I guess the most problematical and the most, whoops, next time.
Okay, Emily. Finish your thought.
Oh, okay. The most problematical, of course, is the moon's size and distance is absolutely nothing like what NASA tells us, but I'll go into that next time.
Okay. And Robert.
Yes.
Robert, are you still there? Go ahead.
Okay. One of my friends, one of my friends and your friends, Dawn Hull, she's been photographing the sun for a very long time now. And within the last month or so, she's been getting really nice images of something that's really close to the sun. And I knew I'd seen it somewhere, and I found it in the Colburn. That's what I've been bouncing back and forth with tonight. It says right here, and its movements on high were slow before it swirled in the manner of smoke, and it remained close to the sun, whose face it hid. So, her images have really been popping in my head for the last couple of days, and a little bit into tonight for the show. The things that she's seeing caused her to have her camera to be reprogrammed somehow, and to also have her system go down for about 3 days, about a week ago. luckily she still has all the images. I knew you and Dr. Sasha would be out of the area for a while, so I didn't send you any of the images. But they're very interesting as to what this thing is that's hiding near our sun.
Yes, and I redo her images. I re-render them and send them back to her so she can see some new details in them that she didn't find. I follow her images every day. Every day. They're marvelous.
Well, like I said, I was just trying to find it because I knew I'd found it somewhere. It's actually in the part of the Colburn where they start talking about what happened during the Exodus between 1558 BC and 1600 BC, and it was all in that huge drop as the destroyer is being described as what it was doing in the skies and stuff. So that's the part I was trying to throw in right there.
Oh, you're ending. Okay. You finish? Okay.
Yes.
Sasha, take it away.
Okay, it's just that I'd like you to know that Richard Dolan has a great discussion in UFOs for the 21st century mind, which actually talks about how it is that bodies like the Earth or a spaceship can move through time-space without destroying the whoever is in or on the body, and evidently that's exactly what the ETs, who have our interest in the survival of us on Earth, have done. They've created a way that we have bypassed the deleterious effects that would have happened had we not been assisted. And I'm not sure this happened, but I think it did. And in any case, if it didn't, that we won't know much after in our particular embodiments. But don't sweat it, because we go through a series of rebirths, and if we don't make it this time, we'll get other tries.
I hope so.
I hope so. Anyway, fascinating conversation. I'm curious what they're seeing around this sun. What is this? If Nibiru's gone by, what are all these photos? What are they getting? Maybe you guys have some insight on it. We're down to, let's see, it's we have about 20 minutes, 15 minutes, between 15 and 20 minutes. I'm going to make this next round, just 3 minutes each, and then we'll have a final wrap-up where we're going to get how people can reach you, your websites, etc. So back to you, Michael.
What I'd be willing to do is, I have all my tasking instructions, because not only were we, working on a better outcome for humanity in 2012, but if you remember, there was Hurricane Sandy that was heading into New York, and that was the exact same time period, and it came through their channels that it was being steered into New York by Team Bad Cop, if you want to call them that. And pretty much what they did is, I'm not a weatherman or anything, but what I was given by them is an actual tasking instructions with all of weather charts, and pretty much it's so the incoming could get the information through our eyes, if that makes any sense. And as you all know, the impact of those storms almost went to zero, where it could have been catastrophic. I have all my tasking instructions for the storms and all the material that was given to me, like Planetary Engineering by A.R. Borden. I can share that with you guys, and you can put it up on the website, and so you'll see this isn't a figment of my imagination,
Oh, I'd love it. Yes.
Yeah, I'll share that stuff with you guys, and then you can share it out to the world.
Excellent. Love it.
Matter of fact, most of that stuff is in the writings of A.R. Borden. I've put it all up there, and I know I've made you both members of that. if you scroll down to where a bunch of documents are, look for ones that have been uploaded by me, and I've pretty much uploaded everything I had for safekeep, you know. But I'll send it to you anyhow, so you'll get just, you know, what we're talking about.
Wonderful. We'll get it out there far and wide. So it's time. You're getting that it's time to get AR's information out there, and it's no longer having to be held secret.
Well, he said so himself. You know, at the end of, you know, the last time that we were discussing all of this, he said the time for secrecy is over. And pretty much he gave me permission. Actually, you know, he gave everyone in the team an ebook that went out to all the governments of the world. It was translated into 25 different languages, and to put that out through our own networks. And I put it up on my Scribd account, and I think it's got about 18,000 views right now. And I brought that up. I said, all my other ones have maybe 500-600 views, you know, and they said, yeah, that's what we wanted, you know, that's being read by a worldwide audience. And what
do you know when they're going to meet again? Do you have any idea? I know the 2011 was in January.
The Linkage Institute?
Yes.
The meeting?
Yeah, the Linkage Institute.
I do not know. From what I understood, the next time that I was brought in, I'm a member of the Linkage Institute, and the last meeting was totally about what was going to be done during this 2012 time period. If you remember, everything I'm talking about is in that briefing from the 2011 linkage.
Right. Do they meet every year? They don't necessarily meet every year?
As far as I knew, up until that point, they did. But what happened was we were getting so close to this time period that was discussed, because if you read the 2011 briefing, I think it put it at, I don't remember the exact number, but 22 months in the future is when it thought that this was going to be hitting, and that brings it into the fall of 2012.
Right.
So pretty much, instead of a meeting, we actually were proactive. You know what I mean? What was discussed in those meetings was implemented in the work that I did with AR, if that makes any sense.
Wow. Okay. Emily.
Yes. The reason I said I think that Nibiru has gone by is because I began noticing in 2010 some really striking changes around the area of the sun and around the area of the moon that I'm not professionally qualified to discuss or understand. Whereas the sun has always in the past been portrayed to us in photographs as being hanging a ball of light and fire in a black background of empty space. Well, that's no longer the case. There's all kinds of textures, and there's all kinds of colors, there's all kinds of stuff around the sun now. The same with the moon. The moon used to be a gray-white ball in the middle of black space, and now it's just burst with colors, particularly magenta. So that's the basis for my belief that whatever Nibiru did, it has left a texture and colors. It left something with us, some evidence of its passage, and we're probably going to have to learn how to live with the evidence, is my feeling about it. And NASA probably knows a lot more than they're saying. Definitely they know more than they're saying, because their pictures, their photographs, their photo images of planets and moons are so grossly altered and messed with. I know they're just keeping secrets, and it bothers me a lot. I don't like.
Didn't you say that the sun had been switched out? We have a different sun.
Well, it certainly isn't the same shape. Okay, it isn't the same size. It isn't in dark and empty space. Okay, so I don't know if you've got a Chevrolet sitting there for 1,000,000 years, and then all of a sudden somebody sticks a walrus in its place. You say, well, something has changed. Okay, and I'm not professionally qualified to say, well, which is the walrus and which is the Chevrolet, but there's something definitely going on different up there. So let me leave it there, and we'll figure it out.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Because I often thought, with the work we did, I thought, well, there should be some kind of evidence in the planets and the sun, and what you just said is awesome. So thank you for sharing that.
I have a page on Facebook called Planetary Image Gallery, and that's where I show all my re-renderings of what's around the sun. Dawn Hull's pictures are there, and Jen Smythe's are there, and Sierra Lord's are there, and I just re-render them and put them up and shrug my shoulders. You tell me what's going on there. It's not anything I remember.
What I can tell you, Emily, is one of the things that, this NSA group had told me was the effect of this cosmic incoming superwave of energy is it shifts suns into their next phase of evolution. And
wow.
So it kind of makes sense of what you're saying.
Okay, well, and that's as good an explanation as I figure I'm going to get. Until we've had disclosure and they start telling us the truth about astronomical phenomena, we're all just guessing, and that's how it is.
Yep.
That's
okay, let's give Robert a chance to speak, and then Sasha. Go ahead, Robert.
Sure. Well, whatever Dawn is picking up for camera, it's been getting a little bit larger and larger and weirder and weirder. So something is being seen out near our sun. The Colburn backed that up with the part I read to everybody where they also said that it hides behind our sun, and the sun kind of blocks it out sometimes. So I know I'm supposed to be thinking positive. Hopefully it did go past us with no collateral effects. Hopefully those nice, large, massive space probes that have been orbiting our sun for over 7 years have done their duty. But you always have to think of what else has happened. Okay, what else could possibly happen? And I'm just going to say I just want everyone to please keep their eyes and ears open, because who knows? Did it work right? Did it not work right? Yeah.
It doesn't do any good to follow your computer star maps, I'll tell you that. Because an astronomer has confided in me that, yes, the North Star is receding, and yes, Orion's getting larger. So all kinds of changes are going on that we're not hearing about.
Well, it's still what I'm trying to say is that please keep, for all the listeners, to please keep their eyes and ears open, because just in case there are some feedbacks from this whole thing going through, we just have to be ready. That's all I gotta say.
Okay, Sasha.
Okay, Revolution Radio listeners, we know that you're the choir to whom we're preaching, and we know that disclosure has already happened for us through study, through entheogens, through visions, and through the contactees. However, right now we're moving toward forcing the Congress to hold a hearing on disclosure, so that they, not that they're going to actually have it, but they'll call attention to the phenomenon, and perhaps we can get some of government officials or the Pope to disclose and tell some more lies. However, disclosure is here, and I want everybody to go inside, to go past your intellect, tell your intellect to go on to observer and go deep, go beyond the intellect and see what visions you have to bring, because they are here and we are them, and now is when it is, and this is the only time you got to dig it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Okay, well, we only have a few minutes left. I'd like everybody, we can kind of go free flow, but everybody tell our listeners how they can reach you, they can find your research, etc. And then we'll just free flow until the music comes on. So let's see, Michael, how do they find you?
Well, matter of fact, I just got a brand new website up, and I'm really happy about it. It's michaelleehill.net, and if you check the blog section, the first 3 blogs I've released is a lot of the things that I've discussed here today regarding the 432 frequency and how it actually decodes to 369. Information on this is pretty fascinating. Just when you go there, check out the blog section, you'll see this image that I had made by Cymatics. I had a guitar that I had tuned to 432 image, and it's kind of history making. It just so happened that Nassim Harriman seen the photograph and shared it through the Resonance project, and it's just kind of went viral. It's over 3,000 views. The geometry that was formed, they said they've imaged everything, dolphin noises, everything, but they never imaged an electric rock guitar. That's what they said. They said, we don't know if it's because of the clipping that's creating that distortion sound, but they had never seen anything like what this produced in a cymatic image. And I'm really thankful that Nassim shared it. So michaelleehill.net, all that information is there. And, check it out.
Okay. Emily, how do people find you?
I'm easy to find on Facebook, Emily Elizabeth Windsor-Cragg. That's my smaller page. I've got a bigger page, Maureen Craig, but it's full now. I can't have any more friends there. I have my planetary image gallery page up there, and my own website, abidemiracles.com. And yes, that's a weird name, and it's 15 years old. And it's links. It is just links to videos going back 15 years that discuss some of the causes and effects that we're experiencing in the New World Order, as I call it. And then at Amazon.com, I have about 17 books. You can find my books there. The latest is the book on the Windsor history, Saints or Sons of Perdition, George V versus Edward VIII. I have Come, Let Us Make Man in Our Image, which is a history book going back a couple of 100,000 years with the 2 methods of the Anunnaki highlighted so you can see how they get compared down through the ages. And my latest, Path to Orion, is a discussion of the changes in the sky with a lot of photographs, and it has a glossary of 50 color photographs, my best planetary re-renderings going back the last 15 years. It's kind of expensive because it's all in color on the inside. You know, all the pages have color just about. And it was my idea about how we can get into a better mind space from where we are now, fighting with these 2 incompatible methods, one top down with secrecy and the other bottom up with full disclosure. So that's how you can find me. I'm easy to find.
Excellent. Robert, how do you find you?
Okay, your listeners can find me on Facebook, Robert H. Evans Jr. They can go through everything I've been posting on there. They can also go to my webpage, which is starshipsaroundthesun.com, which has a lot of stuff I've been talking about for quite some time now. That's it.
That's it. Sasha, how do people find you?
The best way is to look on the web at www.enkispeaks.com. There's lots of illustrations. I summarize the work of Zechariah Sitchin, Lloyd Pye, Michael Tellinger, Chris Hardy, and I got to tell you, Timothy Leary ain't dead. He's inside me.
Okay, what are your books called?
We the Anunnaki is the general sequence that we're doing. The first one is Anunnaki, Gods No More, and the new book that's going to be coming out in a few weeks is Anunnaki, False Gods, and that's what you got to look at.
Okay, and my new book is Dance of the Souls, Pierce the Veil, and My website is janetcarelessin.com. I'm also at NINMAH, NINMAH.com, and the aquarianradio.com. We have the archives of all the radio interviews we do here on Revolution Radio, and plus we get interviewed. And let's see what else. So, EnkiSpeaks.com. Don't forget EnkiSpeaks.com.
Extraterrestrial contact.
Extraterrestrialcontact.com has a lot of information on extraterrestrial contact, and we also have experiencersnetwork.com. And let's see, we have
World Peace Association.
World Peace Association. We're very busy people. Keep going. Okay.
Where's the link going to be for this session tonight?
Can't hardly hear you. Speak up, Emily.
Where's the link going to be for this episode tonight?
I'll send it to you after we're off the air. I probably will get it to you sometime later this week. And then we take all these episodes and we put it out on our Twitter and our Facebook because we believe that this is the way we can transform the planet, is to get the information out. So anybody have a final word? I thought we're at, I don't know what time we're at. Oh, no, we've got 5 minutes. We've got 3 minutes. Okay. Free flow. Who wants to say whatever? Popcorn.
I'll say whatever. Seek and you shall find. The people who are sitting in front of their television sets are really impoverishing themselves, because in order to figure out, to slice and dice the information that we're getting, so much of it is hoaxed and false and debunked and so on. It takes work, and we're living in such a tumultuous time that it's worth the effort. Seek and you shall find. And it's worth it. It's fun. I have
another technique that I think is really important to know, besides the ones I've mentioned of prayer and trance dancing and so forth, is to actually use Tantra, where you allow your lovemaking to let you separate from your separate self-sense and merge with one other person out of your skin-encapsulated self-sense. And with that, you can merge with every being that is, with the universe, with the creator of all.
Michael, do you have a final word? We have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I just want to say I hope, there's a lot of fear-based thought forms that can come into the subject, and I just want to tell people, don't be fearful of it. There's going to be a lot of evidence coming up about this intelligence in our own history. And I guess the point is that if they meant us harm, we really wouldn't be here. I know there's a lot of ugliness, but, from what I understand, it really came down to one faction believing humans needed guidance and the other thinking that we don't. And from my own meeting with them, they said that humanity has earned the right to be treated as equals.
Oh.
Wow, that's good news.
Nice thought. That's a nice
Robert.
thought. Thank you.
Final word, Robert. Final second. Final minute.
I agree with Michael there. Because these ships, these ETs, these races, they've been coming here for a long time. The Anunnaki have been here for 450,000 years, give or take. These other races have been showing up off and on. If they want us to be gone, we wouldn't be here to be talking on the radio.
And that's our music. We have done it once again. Thank you so much, Michael Lee Hill, Robert Evans Jr.
Thank you.
Stephanie Elizabeth Windsor-Cragg, John Bell, our producer. Thank you, Dr. Sasha. I'm Lessin, and I am Janet Carolyn.